found out that the white man ain't white, and the people behind the dirt is dirty Moors, and they lying to the good Moors. But the good Moors is doing their due diligence in reclaiming the Moorish Science Temple. The Moorish Science Temple was Noble Drew Ali's message to the world, mainly to the chiefs on the land, but to the world, that we know who the fuck we is, and we can talk in code in your face, and you won't never know what we saying behind your back, just like you do us. We the coldest at that shit when we know that's the game we playing. We invented it on Earth, right? So when the chiefs be reborn, we looking at the land, all we got to do is, at some point, it's going to dawn on us what's going on. And then it's our duty at that point to inform the rest of the chiefs. But if the chiefs are indisposed, we got to inform the public. Because it's the public responsibility to demand that the chief be brought forth to give a reporting of the events of what's taking place on the land. It's like Tupac said, somebody got to explain why I ain't got shit. Whose job is it? The chairman of the board of chiefs. The board of chiefs consists of all of the chiefs across the land. The chairman of the board is the spokesperson. That's Larry Hoover. And he got to have a witness, and the witness can't be from the Blue Lodge. It got to be from the Red Lodge. That's Chief Malik Angel Bay, a.k.a. Jeff Ford. And so we needed one off the West Coast, and Jeff had to send him a witness. So off the West Coast, we got Big Tukey, Blue Lodge, West Coast, and the bishop that Angel Bay sent out there to be a witness to Tukey was named T. Rogers. In T. Rogers, all of the Bloods know who he is. All the OG Bloods know who he is. When you study his history, you find out he left Chicago as a Peace Stone. He went to, because they didn't have structure. The clans was just clans without structure. And we had to have structure and order in how we move so that we can put the families back together. But all the time, we know that we being infiltrated, but there's nothing we can do about it. Because we don't know where the infiltrators is at, because we don't know who's behind it, from which angle are they coming. Now I can flat out tell you, it's a Scottish Rite, Red Lodge, Moorish Zionist temple, who settled in New Jersey. Noble Drew Ali went in and got the secrets out, put them in the public domain. Noble Drew Ali started the civics organization, but somebody turned it into a religious organization so they could push the dogma through the Moorish Science Temple, so that we won't be able to recognize when Charles Mosley Gray drop us the clock of destiny what he talking about. So Taj is having to re-explain all of this shit over and over ad nauseum, translating the same. How many times will he got to tell a motherfucker what the definition of Moor is? But they come in this class week after week for the definition of the same shit. What's the definition of a Moor? What's the definition of the de jure? What's the definition of the de facto? And here he is with his patient ass, love him to death, but he's too patient for me, answering the same question he answered for the last 72 weeks in a row this week. And I had to ask him, how do you keep your composure?
I know you asked me the other day when you're walking. Yeah.
I don't know how you do it. He's telling you this is a contract. These people are de facto. They frauds. They over here, and you want to know what the word de jure means. You don't want to know how to get out of the condition? You don't want to know how to reclaim your birthright the right way? You want to know what the definition of Negro is in law. Get you a Black's Law Dictionary and look that shit up, and let's get on a mission about cleaning this shit up. Mm. But they asked the man over and over again. He tell him how to navigate the contract. He's telling you the contract coming to a close. It ain't going to last too much longer. He's been saying that the last 10 years. And they keep asking the same question. How long is it going to be for the contract up? He don't know the date. But he know that he can feel, and his research is telling him this shit coming to an end.
Yeah. Let me shift gears a little bit on you just a moment. Where do we figure into the narrative of us, being star people, that we originally didn't even come from Earth, on this
we
planet.
Created this. This is our creation. This is Okay, so this is the star seed, or this is why you got a zodiac sign.
Hmm.
The zodiac sign tell you what star constellation you from. Those born under Scorpio coming into the physical under the rulership of the star family of the Scorpio constellation. The same with all the rest of them is repeat. When you come in, this because you represent a star. That's why they can't count how many stars it is, because they don't know how many people it was that ever lived.
Hmm.
And when the energy from the star reaches Earth, it produces in physical form a sentient being that we call a human.
Hmm.
This is our mental projection of how this creation works. It's the Merkaba in Metatron's cube.
Okay.
We all is different points in the cube. 1,000 points of light, Bush say. Because he was trying to stop us at 1,000 points of what you call acknowledgement of the science. Just the 1,000-petal lotus of enlightenment that he's trying to stop. Right? Now, they got to tell us when they making a move, they got to give us 3 knocks. They 5 years apart that they finna try to take over the world and establish a satanic rule on Earth. So it got to go click, clack, click. Remember that. World Trade Center, Federal Building, World Trade Center. Click, clack, click. 3
So
knocks.
We're getting up for the click now, right?
No, they already made their move.
All 3 of them.
Yeah. In 91, they bombed the World Trade Center the first time.
Oh,
in 95, they bombed the Federal Building in Oklahoma City.
Oklahoma City, yeah.
In 2001, they bombed the World Trade Center again. Mm-hmm. That's a zigzag.
Oh, because they came back to where they started.
Right.
All right.
The 3 knocks is telling us that the ones call themselves the Illuminati then decided to make their move to take charge of the earth. If you read Behold the Pale Horse, George Bush, with a Senate Select Committee, made himself King George I, and all presidents to follow would be under his direct command. He stayed the president until the day he died. The Clintons, George Bush, and Obama was all placeholders, puppets. That was his team.
Well, I heard that whenever a president came into office, they had to confer with him. They had to get direction from him. They had to go see him.
Because he was King George I of the United States of America. That's what he declared himself.
And then I heard they had to see Kissinger too. So
he's what you call the advisor to the throne. Okay. That's why his old ass been around so long. That motherfucker been in politics so long, motherfuckers ain't lived that long.
True.
And he always in everybody's business. Mm-hmm. But don't nobody know why. Who is this motherfucker and where he come from?
I just keep asking why is he still alive? He looks like
well, he's still alive because he's probably
we won't talk about how they stay alive, but we have they have special juices that they keeps them alive. But yeah. So wow. There's so many things going on. There's so many things going on though, and I think what we need to know is what I'd like to ask is what can we do to help the situation with freeing the 3 kings, Larry Hoover, Angel Bay, who is Tookie Williams, right?
Mm-hmm. No, Angel Bay is Jeff Ford.
Jeff Ford, and then Tookie Williams.
Right.
So these 3 kings are in custody, or they're not, or they're somewhere, or are they together?
Well, they Tookie they froze Tookie when they gave him the death penalty. They put him in cryostasis. That's where he had been.
Oh, like the cryogenic stuff we've seen in the. Okay.
Yep. So they thawed him out about maybe 5 months ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And all of them waiting. We just got to get the message to the grassroots and sufficient enough number that we stop supporting the old system so it could fall. Now you're starting to see the rollout as it's falling. It's like a slow building. The building look like it's falling slow till you try to escape from getting under it. Then you realize how fast it's really falling. The faster you run, it seems like the faster the building coming down. That's what it is. It's a slow falling building. It's a high rise. Only this is a system. The system had many, many tentacles, like octopus tentacles or like branches on a spider web. And each part of it had to be destroyed. Right? And as it get destroyed piece by piece, then we start seeing the emergence of our original system rising from the ashes of the old system that just fell. The return of the phoenix. Atlantis rises mean Atlantis comes back. The Crystal City, New Jerusalem, the mothership, returns to Earth. They said it sunk. That means it flew away. Misdirection. Everything they tell us is exactly upside down and backwards to the truth. It's a reflection of the truth, just told to us upside down and backwards. That's why they tell you in Revelations that Christ came with the New Jerusalem, adorned like a bride for her groom. They're talking about Isis. The return of Isis, the return of the Sweetwater, the queen of heaven and earth. Right? And they're saying that the city got the definite measurements because in the book it's saying the one who looked like unto the Son of Man told John, take out the reed and measure. You can't measure it if it ain't in physical form.
Right.
So he measured it. So he knows it's big as hell. And it's coming out the sky and it's going to land on the Emerald Lake in Colorado.
Who's on this?
So the continuity government offices is in Colorado, and the Florence AdMax is in Colorado. And the transition team have to meet at the transition to government location in Colorado as they transition the government. They got a whole pamphlet that the government put out called Continuity of Government under FEMA. Now, we was told FEMA was the acronym for Federal Emergency Management Association.
Right.
But what we wasn't told is that it was also an abbreviation for female. So when we was mad at Hurricane Katrina at the incompetence of FEMA, they was using Hurricane Katrina to learn disaster response in real time without no prep. We got to learn how to take care of our own people in times of disaster and in times of peace. Because even in disaster, if we know how to take care of each other, we won't have to worry about it. We'll still live in peace.
So what you're saying is we've lost the old ways and we've become, acclimated, if you will, and indoctrinated into what they call government. And there has to be a time of getting back, disengaging and disentangling ourselves from that form of government and relearning what we had as a people. And now the continuity of government location in Colorado, is that what's taking place? And if it is, who is actually teaching? I mean, if we don't, it can be them because we already know what their form of government is. Are there like ancients or elders, or who's teaching what we ought to know to these three kings?
The three kings already know it. They've been studying government for years. Larry got about 60 degrees from college. Angel Bay, he was doing his job when they snatched him off the land. His job is to physically remove the imposters off the land, not figuratively, literally, like whatever it takes, get them off the land. That's his job. That's why he was pursuing things with such remorseless pursuit of determination. Big Mama said, clean my land up. So they neutralized him by putting him in prison. And then they sent infiltrators into the El Rookins in order to undermine the remaining of or what they call the remnant of the structure. So they trying to tear it all down. They can't tear it down because they didn't build it. Angel Bay, the only one can tear it down. His soldiers as loyal today as they was when they arrested him 40-something years ago.
So he's been in that long.
Larry's been in there for over 50. And Tukey, they use the same case they used to convict Geronimo Pratt, just change the location from a house to a store. Use the same police to do the same with the same MO. Right? So
with them being at the continuity of government location, does that mean they're no longer in the custody of the of the government, or does it mean that they still are, but they're
okay, so this is what it looked like on paper. On paper, it looked like Tukey dead. It looked like Angel Bay and Jeff Ford is in prison in Colorado ad max. That's what it looked like on paper. But the continuity of government is falling under the jurisdiction of the Indigenous Rights Act of 2017. They know what's going on and they know what's taking place. They just have to steer the narrative and stay in power as long as they can, because once they over with, they over with. So in the media, they painting the narrative that Trump crazy, that there was no attempt to steal the 2020 election, that Hunter Biden is a victim of Russian disinformation and propaganda, that Hillary Clinton really wasn't Hillary Clinton, right? So they paint all this in the public. Now I got to turn around and start telling you piece by piece that they lied. Because once they entered into the record, the Hunter Biden laptop in the public media, that was the straw that broke the bull's back. That's the one that's going to make all of the dominoes fall. Because it's going to prove that it's not Russian disinformation. They falsely accused Trump of collusion with Russians. Trump went and got the certificate that was held by the World Court from Thailand for our gold so that we can reestablish what we call our family bank system. This is why we didn't have central banks. And what they didn't tell you, now, when you watch a Western, you have a little wood hut that's a bank out in the middle of nowhere in the village. That wasn't the bank. The bank was what they called the big house, which was Big Mama House. Big House was short for Big Mama House. And in some parts of the land, it was Big Papa House because he was living longer than Big Mama. Right? So the Big Mama House is where we kept blocks of gold and lots of coal. The black and the gold colors of the Vice Lord Nation is representative of the wealth that comes from Big Mama House. So they told us they stole all of the gold out of Fort Knox. We've been keeping gold in Fort Knox for thousands of years. That's nothing new. They seized Fort Knox when they came over here and took all of the gold to the Far East to hold it in abeyance so we wouldn't reclaim it before the contract expired.
Which we did not.
Right. So when somebody come along and answer the right question, who did it, why they done it, where they came from, and who was involved, that takes the shackles off to the president to recover the gold certificate. The gold certificate is the voucher to reclaim the gold. Right? So I did a video a couple years ago called the $1 Trillion Buyback Program. So the only way to keep everybody from suffering for the next 30 years on the fall of the government is we had to establish a $1 trillion buyback program to buy back. Don't buy stock, buy the stock market. So the royal families of the earth agreed to buy the stock market, the international stock exchange, and all bonds associated therewith. Those names of straw men on those bonds become the heirs to receive the bond payment for which they was originally held as reprisal for a debt. So your social security number is your tracking number that ties you to the amount of money that you can have. And it was being traded on the international stock market using your birth certificate as the savings bond to accrue the interest.
But you have a lot of folks trying to get hold of that. They can say that is it the SikApe trust account and the red numbers on the back of the Social Security.
They won't be able to access it solo for real, for real. Mm-hmm. They got a system in place to trap the ones trying to access it on their own. It's a trap. they're gonna run a bait and switch on them and lock their ass up for fraud if they get too close. That's how they do it.
There are some, though, there are a few out there that claim that they have actually tapped into it. Now, whether that's true or not, or whether or not they've let a few do it just so that it will draw others into that trap.
Well, if you go back to Senate Bill 191 on the bankruptcy, we ain't supposed to pay for nothing. So this is when you navigating the contract. If you know how to navigate the contract, it didn't have nothing to do with you. You're not supposed to pay for nothing. But when you took the contract, when you fought for civil rights, that means that you fought to have the contract attributed to you under the civil rules of civil conduct.
And it should not, right?
We ain't got nothing to do with civics. Personally, we are what you call the de jure. We're not de facto. The civics application is supposed to be for the indentures who fall under the de facto jurisdiction of the corporation. In other words, agents of the corporation can be dealt with by the rules and regulations of the corporation.
So when Noble Drew Ali taught civics, was he teaching civics in order to enlighten his people, our people, as to what we needed to know, as opposed as it referred to them, rather than us to operate under?
Okay, so look at the structure of the teaching. Let's take Taj and let's take trying to think of a different teaching that's different. So Taj teach how to navigate the contract, what the words mean, how do you use this in law. This is the understanding of how civics work. Now remember, Noble Drew Ali said, I can't take these people out of power till you learn how to run your own government. The study of civics is teaching you how they run in their government, and it's supposed to trigger you to remember that this ain't the government of your people. This is not how we run government. Our government, like for instance, the FDA, Food and Drug Administration, if it was being properly ran by our people, the first question of any research done is, how will it affect the children? That's the first question. If I give this to this mother, how will it affect her children? And any negative effects on that, we can't use that. We can't do that. Well, they have something under the corporation called acceptable loss. It's a way to benefit using insurance to pad your losses, to turn your losses into wins. So what's an apparent loss to them is actually a payout. So they trade birth certificates and death certificates. They capitalizing off our birth joy and off our death tragedy.
I went to the GMEI utility site and put the Social Security assigned to me number in, and the Social Security number assigned to my mother, who transitioned in 2002. And to this day, it was just maybe a few days ago, maybe last week, that birth certificate still being traded on all over the world. I noticed some of the ones in like Dusseldorf have become inactive. It was funny, but all over the world, I mean, there might be like, maybe it was like either 1,100 or 11,000 transactions, 1,100, that are still active. And she transitioned in 2002. I have
now,
about
remember, somebody in your family, she gonna come back as. The clock of destiny is the way that you track when she coming back and who she gonna be. They already know how to use it. So the death certificate is a countermeasure to the birth certificate. It keeps the birth certificate able to continuously be being traded until it's switched out with the new birth certificate on the return of the elder.
Really?
Yeah, they good with that shit. That's part of their Babylonian money magic system. They generate money out of thin air because we breathe life into the air when we exhale.
So is there money out of thin air? Is that like the mints that are just printing so-called money, like it's monopoly stuff, just new games, new money. Is that how they're doing it?
Right. So that's so that they can steal the value without you ever knowing what they're doing, using something called inflation. This is done under what they call fractional reserve banking. Under fractional reserve banking, they can borrow $100 from you, and then they use it for collateral to borrow $100,000 or $1 million off that 100. Right now, because you put $100 in your bank account, they can lend $100,000 out.
And that's why they get a little, seem to have they get testy when you want to take it out.
Right, because when you take out your money, they have to cash in a bond.
Okay.
And when they have to cash in the bond, if it isn't matured yet, you know a penalty comes with it. And let's say the mortgage fraud. So all of the banks are going to be seized for mortgage fraud and for usury. Excessive interest on the dollar.
Right.
Right. You're not supposed to charge interest on a direct loan. You're only supposed to charge interest on what they call a third-party loan. That means if I have you borrow some money from somebody, in order to lend me some money, you have to charge me interest.
Okay.
I'm the third party. That means that you giving me a fee to use your credit, a cosigner. Right? So that's how you're supposed to do interest. But they have the inflation. The inflation is affected by the interest rate. You remember when Greenspan was in the Fed, he used to be over here every year readjusting the interest rate.
Right.
That was saying how much you're going to be able to buy with a single dollar. You remember when bread was $0.25 a loaf?
I remember when it was cheap.
I bet you can't find one for under $1.
Oh, yeah, I don't think you can find one for $1. I don't think, maybe let's try like not one under $2.
Right. So that's inflation.
Mm-hmm.
Everything on top of that original quarter is inflation.
Because if it's quarter then, and it was for the same amount and whatever, it really should still be that.
Right.
But what they've done now, they have reduced the sizes of things and increased